Morant with a running start. Elevates. Oh, it dunks. Oh, my goodness.
Tie game in overtime. Gasol will turn his heat. It's gone. Memphis on top. 7-10 remaining. Conley now with three. Counted. A 15-point lead for Memphis. And Blake Griffin gets into it on the floor with Randolph. Hard to tell if there are any punches being thrown under there, but Griffin took acceptance.
Adams going long. Morant. He hit it. Ja Morant. Insanity.
You gotta be kidding me.
Welcome to Grits and Grinds, a Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Grizzlies win edition. My name is Keith Parish. The Grizzlies got their first 4-game win streak of the season. They win it against the Thunder, going away 123-102. Ja Morant has his 6th career regular season triple-double, breaking a tie with Marc Gasol for the most regular season triple-doubles in Grizzlies franchise history. The Grizzlies get the return of Ziaire Williams, and they, of course, improved to now 42-1 over the last 2 seasons when scoring at least 120 points. The Grizzlies get this great victory, continuing the good vibes. Meanwhile, the other big story is after the game, the Grizzlies gave us an update on Desmond Bane's toe injury, and it is not good. They made it sound like he's progressing, which I guess technically he is progressing. But they said that his recovery is progressing, but he's expected to be out for 3 to 4 weeks, or his return is back in 3 to 4 weeks if his toe responds to treatment. The actual language, so I don't get in trouble, they said that upon reevaluation, Desmond Bane is progressing in his rehab from a right big toe sprain and has been cleared to begin a gradual reloading protocol. If the toe responds positively to the reloading protocol, a return to play is projected in 3 to 4 weeks. I'll get into more of that in a second. But we got a bad update from Desmond Bane, who could miss a month. But we'll focus right now on the good stuff, which is the play on the court and the Grizzlies improving to 16-9. They're now tied for the second best record in the Western Conference, only a half game behind the Pelicans. The Suns, if you did not notice, they got obliterated on Wednesday night. This game was back and forth for a lot of it until the Grizzlies kind of put the hammer down in that fourth quarter. The Grizzlies allowed 35 points in the third quarter. They won the quarter 37-35. He got a big third quarter from Dillon Brooks, who came out of halftime, made 3 straight threes. He got a big third quarter from Ja Morant, who had 14 in the third quarter, but they weren't getting back on defense. There was that moment where Taylor Jenkins got really mad at Jaren Jackson Jr. for not getting back on defense. But in the fourth quarter, the Grizzlies tightened up on defense. Yes, there was a direct correlation to Shai Gilgeous-Alexander going out of the game, and the Grizzlies, we'll call it the second unit, this really strong lineup that is much improved with Ziaire Williams being back. You had 2 starters, Dillon Brooks and Jaren Jackson Jr. playing alongside the top 3 guys from the bench, Tyus Jones, Brandon Clark, and Ziaire Williams. They extended the lead a bit, and then, of course, the Grizzlies hold the Thunder to 15 total points in that fourth quarter. And over the past few weeks and during this win streak, I think the defense is the story for the Grizzlies. Yes, it's always going to be Ja Morant doing Ja Morant things, but the Grizzlies have now cracked the top 10 in offense and defensive rating for the entire season. But just since November 1st, the Grizzlies have the 3rd best defensive rating in the NBA. Since November 1st, they're one of 4 teams that has won 2/3 of their games. The Grizzlies have played 18 games over this span. The Celtics are 17-3. They've won 85% of their games. And then you have the Bucks, Pelicans, and Grizzlies, the only other teams in the NBA to win 2/3 of their games over the past 5 weeks or so. The defense is playing much, much better. A lot of that, of course, is that Jaren Jackson Jr. is back. Jaren Jackson Jr. got 5 block shots in this one. He also got 2 steals. Going back to the start of last season, Jaren now has 11 games with at least 5 blocks, which is the most in the NBA. In that time frame, he has 6 games with at least 5 blocks and 1 steal. That is also the most in the NBA. He is third now in franchise history with 5 block games, breaking a tie with Stromile Swift. He still trails Marc Gasol, who had 21 such games, and Pau Gasol, who had 26 games. He also had 12 points. He got an assist. A good game from Jaren. Now this season, when Jaren Jackson Jr. is on the court, the Grizzlies have a very nice or pretty solid 108 defensive rating. Actually, their defensive rating is even better than that since the start of November 1st. Just overall as a team, they're right around 107 points allowed per 100 possessions. The defense is coming around. You're getting Ziaire Williams back, and because of that, I think you can maybe be optimistic that they can hold their spot and continue winning games even without Desmond Bane. If you remember, they lost 5 of their first 6 without Bane. But since then, and I think it is because of some defense, it's because of Roddy playing much improved, and now the return of Ziaire Williams, it makes it easier to stomach. You're even knocking down some threes. There's been like a 3-point shooting surge over the past few games, even without Desmond Bane playing. Dylan's volume of makes has gone way up. Dylan made 5 3-pointers again against the Thunder. He has made some more. Roddy, like we've been talking about, is hitting some. Santi drains the threes when he's at home. Santi Aldama had another really strong home game. He finishes with 14 points. He's now made, in the last 2 games, 3 of these no-dip 3-pointers where he catches the pass above his head and he never lowers the ball. Those are usually going to be unblockable because of how tall he is. What an awesome weapon to have in the arsenal for Santi Aldama. He also had 3 assists and a steal. His defense has been really, really strong, but you got to love what you're seeing from Santi Aldama. Also, the behind-the-back assist that he had to Brandon Clark. Brandon Clark continued a good run. He scored off the bench 17 points, had 17 points and 8 rebounds. The Grizzlies now this season are 10-2 when Brandon Clark scores in double figures. If you remember last year, they were 34-5 when Brandon Clark scores in double figures. The team overall got 32 assists. That's their 3rd game this season with over 30 assists. They are 3-0 in those games. Last season, they were 18-1 when getting 30 or more assists. Ziaire Williams, in his season debut, only made 2 out of 9 field goal attempts, but honestly, who cares? He's going to be rusty, and we're just happy to have him back. He did contribute very nicely with that second unit lineup I was talking about. You saw his length and athleticism really helping out the defense. He had 6 total rebounds, which is, again, a great development. I know rebounds are thoroughly fungible. It doesn't matter who gets them. Sometimes they just come to you, but still, with the number of times he had 0 rebound games last year, I was happy to see him get 6. He had 3 assists, part of that, 32 assists as a team, 2 steals. I did think it was notable, and maybe it's just him getting back in the swing of things. I thought it was notable that Roddy was still the first guy off the bench as far as the wings. You would think the wing pecking order, obviously it's Dylan and Desmond when healthy. They're the first 2. I think most of us would assume next up is Ziaire, then is Conchar, then might be Roddy. And it's going to be a while, I guess, until he gets maybe, fully back with his legs underneath him, and maybe things will change. Like they still started Conchar, which I think, again, I assumed would happen because they've been doing so well with Conchar in that starting lineup. And I like the fit of Conchar as a glue guy alongside, Ja and Dylan and Jaren, and then having Ziaire help you out on that second unit with a little more shot creation. But He was second as far as the wings off the bench. Roddy still came in first. By the way, Roddy made 2 out of 4 3-pointers. He's now made 38% of all 3-pointers in the past 10 games. That overall season percentage keeps creeping up. And I believe this is 3 straight games of him making an above the break 3-pointer. He had been really bad at those, had gotten most of his success from the corners. But Ziaire, on that bench, you saw these kind of player combinations. Maybe these are their practice groups that they like. You had Roddy playing with Ja and Conchar and usually Steven Adams. And then you had Ziaire playing with Dylan and Brandon Clark frequently. I'm sure throughout the season they will mix those up a little bit. But for us, I guess, a lineup and rotation nerds, that was interesting to see. They're going to keep crushing people with those Dylan, Jaren, Brandon front court minutes, even if you put 2 bench guys with them. And I think that's what they're going to continue to plan to do to start the second quarters and start the fourth quarters. Like when the Thunder had to go to their bench and Shea's off the court, and the Grizzlies are able to put out Tyus Jones, Ziaire Williams, Dylan Brooks, Brandon Clark, Jaren Jackson Jr. That's advantage Grizzlies big time. And it's going to keep being an advantage for the Grizzlies. It's a small sample size, but already this season, when Dylan, Brandon, and Jaren play together, as long as a rookie isn't on the court, that's my qualifier, they've played 70 possessions and they have a plus 37 net rating. So one of the reasons, again, talking about, being optimistic or having a positive outlook for the time without Desmond Bane is right now the front court is formidable. Steven Adams, who had a quiet statistical game for the second straight game, which he's fine with. He's all about team performance when he's on the court. He doesn't care if it's 8.5 rebound games. But you have Steven Adams, you have Jaren Jackson Jr., you have Brandon Clark, you have Santi Aldama. When one of those guys misses, you have Xavier Tillman to step in. And then you have, as your wings without Bane, you have Dylan, you have Ziaire, you have Conchar, and you have Roddy playing better, that you can probably keep your head above water and maybe do even more than that, continue to win some of these games. The good news, all right, talking about the Desmond Bane injury. The good news, if there is any, is the Grizzlies only have 8 games in their next 3 weeks. So, if he responds well to the ramp up or whatever the terminology is, he will only possibly miss 8 games if he's on the short end of that 3 weeks. Of course, one of those is the Christmas Day game, which is very, very disappointing. 3 of those are nationally televised road games against really good teams, at the Nuggets, at the Suns, at the Warriors, although maybe the Warriors aren't really good this year, but that Christmas Day Warriors game, you would think the Warriors would be pretty heavy favorites, and you would think as the defending champs, they'd eventually round into form. So the opponents later on, not great, but the good news is they have a light schedule for the next 3 weeks. If Desmond Bane is out for 4 weeks, that would be their next 12 games. And then, we're on an upswing right now as far as the team playing without Desmond, and you certainly hope it continues. But if it dips back down, if the offense hits another lull where the team isn't making 3-pointers, it could get a little bit dicey. A couple of other notes. I thought it was interesting that even with Ziaire Williams' return, with having Dylan and Conchar and Ziaire available and Roddy, they still played Tyus and Ja minutes together. I kind of thought that was interesting. Maybe it wasn't something I would expect, but I guess without Bane, it's not that surprising. Notable in this matchup against the Thunder, who had won 3 straight coming into the game, Lou Dort was unavailable. That was a big deal for them and their ability to guard Ja Morant the last game against the Thunder. Dort gave Ja some problems, and Ja finished 5 out of 20 on his field goal attempts. This one, of course, Ja did much, much better with that 26-point game. The 13 rebounds, that ties his career high. And, of course, he gets the triple-double and the victory. For the Thunder, they were led by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander with his 26 points, but Shai only made 4 field goal attempts. 4 field goal attempts and 26 points scored, which is a very bizarre stat line. Of course, he got to the foul line a lot, 19 free throw attempts. Most of them were the correct calls by the letter of the law, but very frustrating where if you were playing pickup basketball, almost none of those fouls would have been foul calls. Lots of them were the I bump into your body and fall down and they get the benefit of the whistle. And I looked it up because it's such a bizarre stat line of only 4 made field goal attempts and scoring 26 points. And I think the most egregious one of those type games in NBA history is James Harden had a game where he scored 27 points and only made 2 field goal attempts. And by the way, that game was also against the Memphis Grizzlies. Oh, and also, very importantly, Ja Morant drew his 3rd charge of the season. That is now a career high 3 drawn charges for Ja Morant this year. It was part of an excellent stretch. Ja Morant makes a 3, he draws a charge, and then he makes one of the most athletically gifted, spectacular, graceful finger rolls you will ever see. Absolute art from Ja Morant. It was part of that big 3rd quarter. Anyways, that is it for today as we celebrate the Grizzlies winning their 4th straight game, 16-9. Looking pretty good right now. If you would, please go subscribe to the Grits and Grinds YouTube channel. I appreciate you guys who have already done that. Don't forget, Grizzlies Watch Party in Nashville on Friday, December 9th. If you want to hang out with me and John and Chuck from Fast Break Breakfast, come down to Noble's Beer Hall. We're giving away some of those Memphis trucker hats with the gold Grizzlies Bear logo. They are very, very sweet. Also have some scarves to give away. It'll be a good time. Noble's Beer Hall, 7 p.m. on Friday night. Hope all the rest of you have a great weekend. Talk to you soon. Go Grizz!